Hello, everyone, and welcome back. In this tutorial, we're going to walk through another plugin called OAuth Redirect Repair. Now, this plugin is designed to help solve issues related to custom URL paths and parameters during OAuth authentication. In simple terms, it helps manage the redirect process when users log in using providers like Google or other social networks. So if you've ever had issues with redirect URLs during social login, this plugin helps handle that flow more smoothly. Let's walk through how to set this up step by step. First, open the Bubble application where you want to use the plugin. Once you're inside the editor, head over to the Plugins tab on the left side of the screen. Now click Add Plugins and search for OAuth Redirect Repair. When the plugin appears in the search results, go ahead and install it. If it requires payment, simply follow the purchase process and complete the installation. Once the plugin is installed, you can open it to see what it provides. You'll notice that this plugin comes with actions only, and there are 3 actions available. The first action is Prepare Redirect. The second action is After OAuth Flow, and the third action is Prevent Back Button. Now that the plugin is installed, the next thing we want to do is create a new blank page. This blank page will help us manage the OAuth redirect process. So go ahead and create a new page, and you can name it something like Blank Page Repair, just like the example I have here. Once the page is created, we're going to set up a workflow that runs when the page is loaded. So on this blank page, open the workflow tab and add the event when page is loaded. Inside that workflow, we're going to add a plugin action. Search for the plugin action called After OAuth Flow and add it to the workflow. After that action runs, we can add another step to confirm the login state. For example, we might want to check whether the current user's Google email is empty. If it is empty, we can then proceed to sign the user up. So the next action we'll add is sign the user up with a social network. In this case, we'll select sign up with Google. So now once the OAuth flow completes and the user is authenticated, the system will sign the user in using their Google account. Now that we've configured the blank page, let's go back to the page where users will actually start the login process. In this example, that page is our home page. On the home page, we can add a sign-in button, and then we'll create a workflow for when the user clicks that button. When the user clicks the sign-in button, the first action we'll run is the plugin action called Prepare Redirect. This action prepares the redirect path before the OAuth process begins. Inside this action, we need to configure a few fields. First, we'll set the registered URL path. For this value, we can use the current page name. And for example, in my setup, the page is called OAuth Redirect Repair, so that's the value I'm using here. Next, we'll configure the return to URL. This is the page we want users to be redirected to after the authentication process is complete. In this case, we'll set it to the blank page we created earlier, which is Blank Page Prepare. Now, depending on the OAuth provider you're using, you might need to configure a redirect URL like this, yoursite.bubbleapp.io/OAuth. In that case, the blank page we created earlier could simply be named OAuth so that it matches the redirect path expected by the provider. Once that setup is complete, the next action in the workflow will be Go to Page. And here we'll direct the user to the blank page we created earlier. Now on that blank page, we can also create a simple layout to display the user's information once they are logged in. For example, we might add an image element to display the current user's Google profile picture. We can also add text elements to display the current user's first name, last name, and email address. So on the page, you might see fields displaying current user's Google first name, current user's Google last name, current user's Google email, and current user's Google profile picture. This helps confirm that the user has successfully logged in and that we're receiving their information from Google. And you can also add a logout button on this page, then create a workflow for when the logout button is clicked. And the first step in that workflow will be log the user out. And after logging the user out, the next step will be Go to Page, where we redirect the user back to the original page they started from, which in this example is the home page. Now that everything is set up, let's preview the application to see how it works. Click the preview button. Once the application loads, go to the first page where the sign in button is located. When I click sign in, the OAuth process begins. I'm prompted to sign in with my Google account. Once I select my Google account and grant the necessary permissions, Google completes the authentication process. After that, the plugin redirects me to the blank page we created earlier. On that page, we can now see the user's information displayed. For example, we can see the Google profile picture, the first name, the last name, and the email address. And if I click the Logout button, the system logs the user out and redirects me back to the original page where the login started. And that's how the OAuth Redirects Repair plugin works. It helps manage the redirect process during OAuth authentication, making it easier to handle custom URL paths and return users to the correct page after they log in. Hopefully this walkthrough helps you understand how to set up OAuth redirects properly in your Bubble application. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via the chatbot on the ZeroQode website or by email at support@zeroqode.com.